Hey there. Welcome to All Things Social Security. I'm Stephanie Joy. Whether you are a first-time viewer, an occasional viewer, a subscriber, or one of the three tiered benefactor members, I want to welcome you and let your video begin. Remember, if you haven't checked out the memberships, it might be something up your alley because it gives you an opportunity for a little more Social Security disability attorney attention if you need it, but don't have representation and don't want to do a full-fledged consultation. Okay, have a great one, guys. Stay tuned. Good morning. Hey, just to share here on a hearing that I just had, and it involved a younger individual, and it was going to be the kind of case where they are either entirely mentally disabled from working full-time, SJ, all that business, or they weren't going to win. So basically, when you're that young and you don't have such egregious physical problems that would say put you in a wheelchair or bedbound or something very, very severe, with some other unusual exceptions to that when they're a different kind of impairment that's physical. But just we're speaking general here, okay? Remember, it's always general. Um, so this was a mental health case with someone who I felt was really unable to work full-time on a sustained basis, even in a simple, sedentary, any kind of exertional level, unskilled, low stress as that can supposedly be found in our economy. But as you know, these are really, really hard cases to meet. And when there is a previous ALJ denial, when the treatment is largely the same now, you don't hold out a lot of hope necessarily. Now, the big theory of this case for me has been that the person who has a very regimented treatment, mental health treatment, such as multiple days of many hours each day in, say, group therapy for years now, that may have pre-existed, even the old case where the person was denied. And when they were denied, it would be the kind of thing where an ALJ is saying, I agree there are impairments. I agree can't do skilled or unskilled. I agree can't work with the public. I agree it's got to be one of those 1-2-step, simple, low-stress jobs to the extent they can be found in the economy, which supposedly they can. Same kind of treatment, but the theory being that without that very structured treatment that takes up the hours in the week that would be contrary to what an employer would tolerate. You can't have your person not there for 3 to 5 days, right? In addition to a very structured home life. So what was interesting was the ALJ did not ask any hypotheticals. This was huge to me. Huge. No hypotheticals, but instead said to the VE and said, I'm not asking any hypotheticals, but I would like to get your answer to a couple other general questions. And these guys concerned, in fact, let's see if I can find my notes here. Concerned if a person needed supervision, attention from a supervisor in an unskilled job, hourly or more than hourly, would that be contrary to being able to perform a job in a competitive work environment? And the VE said, yes, there would be no jobs in a competitive work environment where a supervisor is going to get on you every hour or more. It's something that we had alluded to about excessive supervision, needing excessive hand-holding to stay on task, to perform the job, I'm going to use the term off task, which is not necessarily used in the dictionary of occupational titles, but is recognized by vocational experts as being a requirement that to a large degree we remain on task when we are at work. There's some level of being able to be woohoo, but usually some say 10% is the max. Some say 15. I've heard some even say 20. I find it hard to believe, but um, yep. The VE testified that frequent supervision would not be suitable for competitive work. So that was the one question. And the other question, generally the ALJ asking of the vocational expert, was about basically how many absences would be tolerated by an employer, meaning absences not showing up for work. And this VE said more than one time a month would be contrary to the possibility of successfully performing a job. And what that generally means is the VE is saying the employer would fire the person who every month doesn't show up one day, unscheduled. That could be sick, could be whatever, mental or physical, or whatever the reason. So I have seen, gosh, I remember years ago, you get VE saying, well, if there's more than three, they're probably going to get fired. And it was such a joke because I would say, so you're saying three is okay. 3 times a month is okay. Times 12, 36 personal days a year. Is that right? They're allowed to take 36 days off of work a year. Can you imagine? Have you ever met an employer like that? Particularly an employer when you first start? You know, you're not now the guy with the seniority that is making $500,000 a year because you're so skilled and so, exclusive. So those VEs that would say that, I would always throw in my, really, so we're allowed to have 36 days off a month. Good to know. Where would those jobs be? And some ALJs at that time would kind of like ignore the fact that it was ridiculous so they could get the ruling they decided they were going to have. I've seen them come down a lot on that lately. I still would argue that one time a month is too much because what employer is going to give an unskilled minimum wage worker 12 days off a year? I mean, does anybody get that? They don't. In fact, people can't even get their 2 weeks vacation. Sometimes you have to work there a whole year before you get that. So you'd be long since fired if you've already been taken off a day a month. But for now, I will accept it because it works oftentimes when someone's severely impaired. There is way more than one day they're not showing up for work. Proving it is another difficulty because a lot of times it's more subjective and an interpretation of their condition. But the other thing that the judge asked, VE generally speaking, since it was not a hypothetical, guys, we got no hypothetical, and I'll explain that in a minute. Off task. At what part of a day would a person being off task not be suitable for any jobs? And this particular VE said 15%. So I've seen that 10, I've seen 15, I've seen 20, not 20. It seems like lately they're pulling back on the 20, just in my experience. So who knows with other people, but the aspect about, the absences, the off task, and the fact that there were no those general questions, and there was no true hypotheticals, which the judge said, I'm not asking any hypotheticals. It's not hypothetical. I just want to know this. Normally, remember, hypotheticals, they first have to give an RFC, residual functional capacity. And that would be where they peg the exertional, sedentary, light, medium, heavy, very heavy. And then they add to that any other limitations there might be, such as, hands can't be used more than frequently, or no climbing scaffolds or ladders, only occasional balance, only occasional foot pedal usage. It could be limited to it. They could do the mental limits also, limited to 1-2 step, limited to low stress work, no pace required, no interaction with the public, only occasional interaction with coworkers, or blah blah, all those things that get thrown in with that kitchen sink. Kitchen sink being the exertional RFC of the sedentary, light, medium, heavy, very heavy. She didn't ask a single hypothetical. As such, as you can see, I think from what I'm saying, the VE was never asked about what jobs would exist for a hypothetical individual. what jobs would exist for hypothetical individual A? There was no hypothetical A or one that the VE was described and was supposed to come up with jobs if there were any or if there would be no jobs. So I have a very positive feeling about this hearing, which is a really pleasant surprise because these young people with the mental impairments, particularly when they haven't been hospitalized in a number of years, really, really a tough row to hoe. And as I think I already described, this was already preceded from a 2 years old denial at an ALJ hearing, not with me, thank you very much. Although I don't really think less of the attorney that was representing it because it is a very, very, I don't want to call it the one percenters, but maybe it is the one percenters. That's probably exaggerating the amount of denials, but it's something probably pretty low because without great evidence, it's very hard to prove a person can't do a low stress, no public, no dealing with the public kind of minimum wage or otherwise job. It's really that hard, you know? And we did focus though on, and my brief went into it about the need for the structure, the need for all those days in group, the need for, and they've been going on for a very long time. It wasn't like something new that the person just, concocted. So anyway, thought that was really interesting. Zero hypotheticals. So we'll see what that means in the end. I'm feeling very optimistic. And another thing, caseworker attended the hearing and testified. And it was very narrowly asked questions of the caseworker who's been working with the client for years. Very narrow and very directed to that, ironically, that excess supervision, hand-holding, guidance, and was a terrific witness, very, very smart, brilliant lady, and well described exactly what she saw and observed and knew about her client. And although that wasn't necessarily the plan to have her testify, didn't even know necessarily that she would. It was more last minute, but it was able to be comport with my brief and the theory of the case about that need for structure, need for supervision, all that business. So it was really, I think it was really persuasive. I'm persuaded, and I think the judge took it very well because the judge even commented on the helpfulness of the testimony. So, anywho, two interesting things there, right? You never know where the way a hearing is going to go. And the irony is we plan for all possible, the branches that you could see it could possibly go in, which you can't always foresee everything. And then, if you've done that, the more simple way of getting there is always appreciated. Doesn't often happen, but is very appreciated. But you have to cover all your avenue A, B, C, D, because you don't know where it's going to go, and you have to be prepared for any direction, in my opinion, if you're properly representing your client. Okay, so fingers crossed, guys. It sounds really positive. I hope it works well for my Pete. All right, I'll talk to you later. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.